Hey! I have not sat down and filmed anything in weeks, so I'm feeling a little weird right now, I'm not gonna lie. My last video was a vlog, which, by the way, if you haven't watched it, go watch it because it was really fun. And the video before that, I don't even know what it was. And I have some videos pre-filmed which I didn't get around to posting because I didn't want to edit them. Basically, I was kind of busy in August, which I never really am busy, like ever. The only thing I ever do is school, and obviously it was summer. I had a really good August, so that's fun. But I do have some fun videos coming up. After this, I'm gonna film my September TBR, so look out for that in a few days. I also have a tier ranking video, a book shopping vlog, a book haul, some fun stuff for September. Anyway, today is going to be my August wrap up, and in August, I read 14 books. 14 books, which is the most books I've read in a month so far this year. Normally I read anywhere from like 5 to 12 has been my books per month this year, but this month I read 14. I think I was just really trying to soak it all up, you know, last month of summer. While I have all this free time, I just really wanted to read. Oh my gosh, someone is literally doing some yard work. I've waited so long to film this video, please stop! Anyway, what was I even saying? What was I saying? What was I talking about? No thoughts. No thoughts. August books. Yeah, I read 14. Let's talk about them. Okay, I think I'm just gonna start off chronologically like I normally do, just so I don't forget anything. So, the very first book I read this month was The Two of Us by Taylor Torres. This cover is beautiful. Look how pretty. The pinks, the purples, the water, the sky. So I picked this book up because it was written by someone who I follow on Instagram, and I just think it's so cool when bookstagrammers write their own books because, I don't know, I just love it so much. So of course I had to read it. It is on Kindle Unlimited, so that is originally where I read it. I was also intrigued by this book because it is a childhood friends to lovers and second chance romance, which I think it's safe to say has been my favorite trope this year. Like, something about childhood friends to lovers and or second chance, I just can't get enough. So that's what this book is. Basically, it's about Mara, and one day she gets new neighbors, a girl her age whose name is Kat, and then her older brother who's older only by a year, and his name is Ambrose. And basically it starts off when they are little kids, and basically the three of them become the best of friends. They do everything together, they always hang out together, and I forgot to mention they all live in a very small town, like very teeny tiny small town. And then eventually, as they start to get a little bit older, Ambrose kind of grows apart from them. He enters high school first, he has all these friends first, he gets a girlfriend first, and so he kind of just doesn't really hang out with them as much anymore, and Mara and Kat are still best of friends. This kind of follows them as they get older. They go through middle school, they go through high school, but that is all in the past. And now, in the present timeline, Mara does not live there anymore. She gets a phone call from someone, and basically she goes back to the small town where she grew up to spend time with her dying father. So, they're kind of the two timeline chapters. Obviously, there's something happened that made her leave that small town, and it gets revealed, and she has a hard time going back and facing that place where so many things happened. Story was really good. Obviously, I love all the tropes in here. What I loved most, I think, is that it focused so much on friendship between Mara and Kat, and it was very heavily focused on their friendship rather than Mara and Ambrose's relationship. My overall rating for this was 4 stars. I love the tropes, I love the setting, I enjoyed the characters a lot. It was really sad, but it was really good, and I highly recommend if you like those kind of tropes. I haven't sat down and filmed in a long time, so I'm so sorry if I'm doing a horrible job, but whatever. Okay, next I read Close Quarters by Candy Steiner. She's definitely become my favorite author this year. I love her books, and so every month I'm reading 1 or 2 of them, and the first one that I read in August was Close Quarters. This book was so... It was very interesting. It takes place on a yacht. Okay, so this girl, her name is Aspen. She's a photographer, which, by the way, I love reading about, like, artists and creative people. It's just so fun because that's the kind of stuff I'm interested in. And so, anyway, she's a photographer and her boyfriend worked on this yacht for the summer. So she's kind of going with him to say goodbye. She starts taking pictures on the boat, and then the owner of the boat, he sees her and he's like, you should stay. You should stay. And she's like, I don't know. She just graduated college, by the way, and so she doesn't like have a job or anything lined up. She wants to travel for the summer. So she's like, I don't know. I just like really want to travel this summer. Like I want to be by myself. And he's like, I can take you to travel, you know? And she's like, okay. The owner's name is Theo, and this is a romance between Theo and Aspen. And it was really good. It was very dramatic. I loved the yacht setting. Like, it was so fun. I've never read a book that takes place on a boat, so that was so fun. I loved the European setting. They were traveling everywhere. They got to go off and do all these things, and it was really good. Obviously, it's like some cheating in this book because she goes on the boat with a boyfriend and then she leaves the boat without one, or should I say a different boyfriend. The boyfriend is literally awful, so I didn't feel bad. This was not my favorite Candy Steiner book. The ending was kind of wild. I was like, what just happened? But it was good. Again, like I said, I love the drama. Okay, I love the drama. I love the setting. I did like Aspen. Theo was fine, you know. Billionaire, those super rich dudes, they aren't my favorite. I feel like most of the time their only personality trait is that they are rich, and I'm like, okay, great, you can buy her whatever she wants. Like, I love that, but give me something more, you know? So I give this 4 stars. Still great, still a very fun and entertaining read. Then after that, I read Ever After Always by Chloe Lee. It's book 3 in the Bergman Brothers series. I started this series last month on a whim, and I have been slowly making my way through. This one is about one of the sisters. Okay, so basically this whole series is about 7 siblings, 5 brothers and 2 sisters, the Bergman siblings. And so this is the Bergman Brothers series, but this one follows one of the sisters. Her name is Freya, and she is already married to Aiden, but things are a little bit rocky. They're having some problems with their relationship, and you know, it's basically like a marriage fix. I don't know, it's one of the books where they're already married and they're having issues, and so it's like their romance to fix their marriage and their relationship. I don't know, this one was definitely my least favorite of the series. I don't know, I just found myself bored. I don't really like marriage books unless it's All Your Perfects, because anyway, because the characters already know each other. They already had their whole love story, and we didn't get to see that, and I don't know, I don't really like it. I don't remember much about this book, like, at all. But I still gave it 3 stars because it wasn't bad. I just don't really like the marriage books. Yeah, I just thought it was a little bit boring. With these books, I love seeing all the side characters in the background. Obviously, it's like one big family, and each sibling gets their book, and so it's so good. I love that part of the book. So then after that, I read Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. This is their newest release. It came out in May, and honestly, I was not too eager to read it. Anyway, this book is a second chance romance. But yeah, this is about Leo and Lily. They meet when they are younger. Leo starts working on Lily's ranch. Well, it's like her dad's ranch, right? But then something happens, of course. Leo ends up leaving. Years later, they end up reuniting. Lily is the daughter of like this famous treasure hunter, and everyone in this town like knows about him, and so she does these like tourist guide things where she takes people out and they go on like treasure hunts. Basically, Leo and his friends end up being one of those groups. It just takes a turn that I was not expecting at all. I heard that it was different than a lot of their other books. I knew that it wasn't like a typical romance, and so that's why I was kind of hesitant to read it. But then I was just like, okay, I want to read it. Things just got crazy. Things got wild. They end up going, well, should I say, it's not really spoiler, is it? Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. It was very different from their other books. It was very different from books that I normally read. It was very fun and adventurous and like action-packed, and I was really surprised. And I did, of course, like the romance, but it wasn't the main plot of the story. It wasn't super focused on Leo and Lily. Of course, they do reconnect, and there's a scene, you know, the one bed trope? Well, make it a one sleeping bag trope in a tent, and I was just like, yeah, that was good. Yeah, I like genuinely enjoyed this and I was quite surprised. I give this 4 stars. It was really fun. It was really refreshing to read. Obviously not my favorite Christina Lauren book, but I was pleasantly surprised. I think because I went in with such low expectations that I ended up really liking it. So 4 stars. Okay, so the next couple of books I'm going to talk about are all books that I read in my summer reading vlog, which, sorry to bring it up again, but if you want to watch it and you want to watch me talk about and react to all of these books, then check out that video. It was really fun, in my opinion. Well, was it fun? I don't know. It was fun for me. But anyway, the first book that I read was Say Yes by Candy Steiner. This was the other Candy Steiner book that I wanted to read that month, and I did read it, and it was so good. Okay, first of all, the setting takes place in the 90s in Florence, Italy. The characters are both artists, and like I said, I love reading about artistic people. And so basically they're artists, they're studying abroad just for the summer. Basically Harley, our main girly, she is a perfectionist. She takes her art very, very seriously, and because she's so focused on making things perfect, she ends up not really doing her best work. And her professor is kind of like, hey, you are very, very talented, but you gotta let loose, girl. Like, you gotta not be so serious. Like, you are trying way too hard to make things perfect. You just gotta kind of think outside the box, kind of go for it, you know? After that, she decides to have a whole night of doing fun things and just saying yes to everything that comes her way. Just live a little, you know? She runs into Liam, who is the love interest. He is obviously also in her art class, and they end up having this whole say yes night where he takes her around the city and they say yes to everything, whether it's food, activities, like they end up going to this concert. And so after that night, obviously they have this connection. It's like that typical, one of us doesn't want to be in a relationship but we both want more, but there's something keeping us from being together, like just like emotional, personal baggage. But I loved it so much. So yeah, like I said, Liam is very closed off and he has a pretty tragic past. Something happened to him and it kind of just, things happen, it changes you. Harley has a disability and that is also something that affects her every day. So they're both living with these things that are holding them down, holding them back. But yeah, that's what I really like about Candy Steiner's characters, is that they feel so real. They have so much depth to them. Hazel, not like surface level, typical quirky girl, angry dude. They just, there's something about them, and I loved this romance. I loved both the characters. So yeah, this was great. 5 stars, forgot to say. 5 stars, solid 5 stars, loved it so much. And then after that, are you ready? Are you ready? I finally read Every Summer After. I bought this book in May when it released, and it has been on my TBR every single month up until now. And I was like, okay, last month of summer, if I don't read this now, then I'm gonna have to wait a whole nother year. If you don't know what it's about, it is a childhood friends to lovers, second chance romance, summer vibes, summer house, lake house. Basically, it's about Percy and Sam. Percy's family buys the summer house on a lake. Sam and his family live next door. It's him, his older brother Charlie, and their mom. And so the 3 of them live next door. They live there permanently, full-time. Their mom owns a restaurant. Sam and Percy are the same age, and so they instantly become best friends. They have a lot in common. She makes them little friendship bracelets on their first day hanging out together. Are you kidding me? That's so cute. They become best friends, but they don't see each other all the time because Percy and her family are only there during the summers, and so every summer they get to reunite, and as they start to grow into teenagers, They develop some feelings for one another, and of course something happens. They don't speak for a while. I think this one is like 11 or 12 years. It is a long time. A long time goes by between when the conflict happens and then when they reunite. Oh gosh, it was so good. I've heard so many people say that this is Love in Other Words with a different cover, Love in Other Words in a different font. It's just literally Love in Other Words rewritten. And while obviously there are similarities, like you have two books with the same tropes, there are going to be things that are similar. I don't know. I didn't compare it to that very much. It was its own book. It was its own story. It was its own thing. I don't know. It's been about a year since I've read Love in Other Words, and so maybe that's why it wasn't like constantly comparing it in my head, because I know a lot of people were like, oh, this is just too similar to Love in Other Words, and blah, 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 blah. But I don't know. I didn't feel that way. I was just like so immersed in this story that I just didn't think of anything else. I didn't think of anything but this book. Like, obviously I loved it. I love these tropes. I love the setting. If you give me a childhood friends to lovers book, then I will probably love it. It was great. Anyway, yeah, 5 stars, amazing. I'm gonna stop talking about it now, but it was great. It was great. I read My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. This one was okay. I don't know. I've said this before, but Tessa Bailey is just not my favorite author. I did like It Happened One Summer, did like Fix Her Up, but Hook, Line, and Sinker, Window Shopping, and this one, I don't know. I didn't like it that much. Basically, this is about a 3rd grade teacher and a bounty hunter. Taylor goes on this vacation with her brother, and when they show up, there's a dead body in their room. So that's nice. That is where Miles comes in. He's the bounty hunter. But honestly, I don't know. I don't even know why I didn't really like this. It was just kind of boring. Like, there's literally a murder in this book, and I was still like, yawn, snooze. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't suspenseful in any way. I don't know if it was really supposed to be, because it is still Tessa Bailey. It is still a romance book, but it just didn't do it for me. I just didn't really care about the characters. I didn't really care about the literal murder. Like, I was just like, whatever. So yeah, this was a 3 stars, but honestly, that was kind of generous. I just don't like rating books below 3 stars. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. Like, obviously, it doesn't matter. Rate it whatever you want. I'm telling that to me. But, yeah, I give it 3 stars, whatever. So then I picked up a book that has been on my TBR for literal years, and that is Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my 2nd Taylor Jenkins Reid book. The first one I read was One True Loves, and I actually read it 3 years ago on this same trip that I was on in the same place. So that's kind of fun. Maybe in 3 more years I'll finally read Evelyn Hugo. Anyway, I read this on the way home. We were in the car for like 7 hours, and I sat down and I read this entire thing in the car, and I was pleasantly surprised. So basically this is about Hannah, and this book is interesting because it's a dual timeline, but not in the sense that it's past and present, but it's like actually 2 different universes, 2 different scenarios. Hannah is kind of stuck. She doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. She ends up coming back home to where her best friend lives in LA. Yeah, she's from LA, and so she comes back home. She recently went through a breakup, and she's just kind of over her life in New York, I think is where she was. I don't know. Doesn't really matter where she was, but basically she comes home and she goes to this party with her best friend, and that is when there are 2 different scenarios that can happen. So the first thing she can do is go home with her like high school sweetheart who is at that party. His name is Ethan, and they reunite, and she goes home with him. But then in the other timeline, she decides not to go home with him. She just went through a lot of stuff, so she goes home with her best friend. And that's where things go, okay? So it's like 2 different stories in one book, and that was just so interesting to me. It was unlike anything I've ever read, and honestly, I didn't know which outcome or which story I ended up liking more. They were both so interesting, and I liked them both. It was crazy. I was really surprised. I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. Like I said, very entertaining, very good. It just wasn't a perfect 5 stars for me, I think, because the amount of times the word cinnamon roll was used in this book was just way too many. I was like, we get it. She likes cinnamon rolls. Like, why is that your only personality trait? Please. This was good. I definitely recommend, if you haven't read this already, Taylor Jenkins Reid. I get it. Okay, her writing is really good. And this just makes me realize that I really do need to read her newer books, because This was great. So after that, I read the 4th book in the Bergman Brothers series, which is With You Forever by Chloe Leese. And this one I think was my favorite of the series. This one is about Axel, who is one of the Bergman brothers, and then Rooney is the love interest, and Rooney is Willa's best friend, and Willa is from the 1st book. So it's kind of all connected. I love that kind of connection. But yeah, this is about Axel and Rooney, and she and Axel have always had this connection. They've always had like these crushes on each other, which is so cute. Axel is really closed off. He's very unsocial. He doesn't like being around a lot of people, and so they don't really interact all that much. Axel's also an artist, and Rooney is in law school, I believe. She was a soccer player, but something happened that kind of made her have to slow down for a little bit. Rooney just needs some time off, so she ends up going to this cabin because she thinks no one's gonna be there, but it turns out Axel's there because he is fixing it up. And long story short, he needs to get this inheritance so he can pay for these renovations. He doesn't want to bother his family. He doesn't want to burden others with the responsibility, and basically he was left this inheritance by like an uncle or something, but he had to be married. So this ends up being a marriage of convenience, which I had no idea going into. And the only marriage of convenience book I read was Marriage for One by Elle Mays, and I did not like that book. Did not like it. So I haven't picked up another book with this trope in it, but this one I had no idea, and it was so good. I love their relationship. Fits so well together. This was kind of like opposite fake dating. They're married. They don't want anyone to know, and so they pretend that they're not married when they actually are, and it is just so cute. There's this dog who hangs out outside of the house, and Axel kind of takes care of him. Rooney named the dog Harry Styles. He named his dog Harry Styles, and I was just like, I love her. Like, it was really cute. I gave this 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. Definitely my favorite one out of the series so far. Next book I read was Breathless by Jennifer Niven. This one was on my summer TBR, and so I'm so glad I got to it. This is a young adult book, but I feel like it's kind of on the more mature side of young adult. It's still about teenagers, but it's less like high school drama type of thing. It takes place in summer. Basically, this takes place after graduation. It is about Claude, and she has just like the perfect life, the perfect parents. Everything has been very easy for her until her parents get divorced. One day her dad just comes up to her and he's like, hey, I don't really want a family right now, so sorry. That's not really how it goes, but that's kind of how I imagined it. Claude and her mom move away to this island. It's off the coast of like Georgia or something. And there's like this inn that they end up staying at. One of the guys who works there catches her attention. His name is Jeremiah. So basically he's there for the summer. He works there like every summer, and this is basically just like kind of a coming of age story. She just kind of discovers herself there. She, you know, meets this boy. They have this summer fling, and it kind of reminded me of Heartbones in that sense because, you know, they meet, they have the summer fling, and then, you know, of course that line in the beginning of the book where he's like, don't fall in love with me, and she's like, please, I will not fall in love with you, and then they end up falling in love. But yeah, this was really cute. And the ending, it kind of left me, I don't know, I'm not gonna say anything, but the ending was kind of, it was definitely different than I thought, but I kind of liked it. It was kind of refreshing, and I was like, Yeah, if you liked Heartbones, I feel like you would like this book because it's very similar. It was good. I gave this 4 stars. Okay, then I read Better Than the Prom by Lynn Painter. This was not really a book. It's a short story. If you've read Better Than the Movies, and then you know. This is the prom night scene from Wes's point of view, and then there's like another little scene after that from Liz's point of view. So it's just very short. It was just 30 pages, but it was just so cute. It was like seeing your best friends again. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey guys, I miss you. I hope you're doing well. I loved being able to see Wes's point of view of that night. I don't really have anything to say about it. It was 30 pages, not even a real book, but it was on Goodreads, so I counted it, okay? Yeah, super cute. If you've read Better Than the Movies and you want like a little snippet of Wes's point of view, then definitely recommend. You can read it. There's a link to it in Lynn Painter's Instagram bio, so if you're interested, definitely go read it. It was so cute. Alright, we're almost done, but then I read Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is her newest release. So this is about Bee and Levi. Basically, they knew each other in grad school, and they never really got along. And now, a few years later, I don't know how long later, but they are both working on this project for NASA. She's like a brain scientist, neuroscientist. I don't know, she's a scientist. She's obviously way smarter than me. I don't know, long story short, this is about really, really smart people, and I am just not smart enough to understand what they are saying. I've said this before when I was reading like the little novellas that Ali Hazelwood put out, but her characters are just way too smart for me, and I don't understand what's going on half the time. Which, I mean, yeah, it is my fault for reading books about scientists when I don't care about science. But I love her writing. The Love Hypothesis was one of my favorite books from last year. I loved it so much. So obviously I was very excited for this. And her writing is great. I did enjoy her characters. Levi, I love him. He was great. But yeah, this definitely was not my favorite. I did like the writing, like I said. I just like Ali Hazelwood's books. And I like that this was in first person because the Love Hypothesis was in third person. And so, like I said, first person is just superior. I gave this like a 3.75 stars, but rounded it up to a solid 4 because, I don't know, it's just easier. 4 stars. Alright, next I actually listened to an audiobook, which was crazy because I'm not really into audiobooks. It's very hard for me to concentrate on the story. I get very distracted, and unless I'm just like sitting there and only listening to it, or like maybe if I'm on a walk, I could listen to it. But it's just, it's hard for me to concentrate on the story. Anyway, the book that I listened to was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. So not only did I listen to an audiobook, but I also listened to a non-fiction memoir book. Like, so different from what I normally read. But I did see this book going around a lot, and people were saying just how good it was. I was very familiar with Jeanette. Obviously not her story, but I loved iCarly as a child. It was one of my favorite shows ever. And so I was interested, and I was like, oh, okay. And they had it at my library through the Libby app, which was crazy because I got it like as soon as they put it out. I was able to snatch it. I was just browsing on the books, and I saw it, and I was like, so obviously it's a memoir. It's about Jeanette McCurdy and her life and her upbringing as a child star and her very toxic relationship with her mother. It is narrated by her, so that's another reason why I really liked the audiobook. It was her talking. It was just her talking, and I was so invested in this. The writing was so good. I could definitely see her writing other things too. The audiobook was about 6 hours, and I just sat there and listen to it. It's just so crazy to see what went on in her life, all the things that happened. Really hard to listen to at times just because the things that she went through were insane, and her mother was insane. Anyway, I definitely recommend the audiobook if you're interested in reading this. Yeah, I did give this 5 stars, even though it feels really weird to give someone's life story a star rating, but just for the sake of rating it, 100% 5 stars. If you can handle reading about these topics, then I definitely recommend, but if you can't, then don't, because she definitely goes into very graphic detail about her eating disorders and stuff like that, so just be aware. But it was incredible. Alright, so that brings us to the last book I read this month, and that is Perfect Strangers by J.T. Gessinger. I don't know. Anyway, this book has also been on my TBR for a little bit. I don't even know what I can say about this book without spoiling it because it was actually crazy. Basically this is about Olivia, and she is a writer. She is kind of in a rut. She hasn't written anything for like 2 years. And so her editor or her publicist, I don't know, she stays in their apartment in Paris. She takes the summer to kind of get inspired, get out of her town. Well, there she meets James, and instantly there's this connection. Instantly. And so it is very insta-lovey, or I guess it's more like insta-lust, I should say. Literally by 20% they're already getting crazy. And so things happen very quick. Okay, they decide not to exchange any information, no last names, no personal details, nothing. They just have this fling, okay, until she leaves at the end of September. He's an artist, by the way, which this is the 3rd book that I've read this month where the guy's an artist. And the book that I'm reading right now, the guy's also an artist. I love it. I love it. Anyway, so yeah, he is a painter, and that's all I really know about each other at first, and then things get crazy. And I really can't say more than that because I don't want to spoil anything. I don't even know what to think about this. It's been 3 days since I finished this, and I still don't know what to think. Throughout this book, my rating changed, okay? At the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, you know, this is just a fun book. A little friends with benefits in Paris summer fling type of thing. I was like, okay, solid 4 stars. I'm liking it, okay? And then something happened, and I was like, huh? So I was like, it's more like a 3.5 stars instead of a 4. And then something else happened, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is 5 stars. This is 5 stars. And then something else happened, and then I was like, okay, maybe it's more like a 4. Anyway, I'm so sorry. This is so vague, but I don't want to spoil anything. But if you've read this, please message me because I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I was just my jaw was just like on the floor the whole time. I was just like, I think I landed on 4 stars. I don't know. On Goodreads, I wrote 4.5, but I don't know. I'm a little bit torn still. Even 3 days later, I'm like, was it a 5? Sometimes I think about it, I'm like, yeah, that was 5. But then I think about it more, I'm like, no, it was a 4. So I think I'm gonna land 4.5 stars. I don't know, whatever. Just someone please talk to me about this book because it was crazy. And if you decide to pick this up, please let me know because I just need to talk about it. I need to talk about it because I can't stop thinking about it. That was the last book that I read in August. Like I said, a very successful reading month for me. And now I'm back in school, so I don't know how much I'll be able to read now, but I'm gonna worry about that later. Anyway, if you watched this whole thing, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Like always, comments, your thoughts, feelings about any of these books, about whatever, down below. I would love to read them. And until next time, bye!